Hey guys, welcome back to The Awakening Artist. My name is Dana, and today we're going to be talking about the importance of establishing a niche as an artist, why you need one, and how it's going to help you in your creative career. So stick around to the end of the video and you guys are going to learn this very important tip that has been pivotal in building my business personally. And you guys are going to know how to apply that in your own lives. So let's jump in. So first, let's talk about what is a niche. So a niche is essentially a specific corner of a market that you are targeting and becoming an expert at. I like to think of it as being a big drop in a small ocean rather than a small drop in a big ocean. So what that means is, as an artist, I think a lot of us start out kind of broad, like testing out different styles, different methods. I know for me in the beginning, I was testing out pet portraits, I was testing out portraits for people, I was testing out landscape, I was testing out abstract, I was testing out spiritual art. And that is such a pivotal stage to go through, which is experimenting and seeing what fits with you and what works, what doesn't work. But eventually what you want to do is you want to start making it as narrow and specific as possible, your artistic voice, your artistic direction. So once you go through the experimentation, let yourself experiment, then basically the goal of establishing a niche is then making it more directed, more specific, and more channeled. So the problem that I think a lot of artists encounter is they have a wide variety, they have a wide skill set, and they're like, yes, I can do whatever you want me to do, especially with commission work. It's like, yep, I can paint this, I can paint that for you, I can paint all of these things. And so you kind of, a lot of artists, I think the mistake that we make is we then market ourselves that way, where we're like, just commissions available, I can do whatever you want. But then that's being too small of a drop and too big of a pond. Does that make sense? So what you want to do then is first go into yourself and decide, what is it that you truly enjoy doing? Because it's pointless to build a business around something that is inauthentic to you, even if you think it's going to be successful, right? So it's after that experimentation phase, going in, figuring out what feels good to you to create, and then niching that down even more. We call it niching, making it more specific. So say, for example, I'll just use my work for an example. So I'm a spiritual artist, okay? And that is still a very broad niche. That's still taking it out of the pool of I'm just a visual artist to I'm a spiritual artist, specifically a painter. Okay, so that's already making it more specific. But then getting even more specific than that, once I decided to focus on that direction and focus on that pool of spiritual art, what does that mean to me? Then I decided, okay, well, I still like doing figurative work. I'm a spiritual channel for guides and beings, right? So then it's getting more and more and more specific and more fine-tuned. So then it gets even more specific down to I channel and paint guides. I paint spirit guides. I paint goddesses. Okay, so you see how that went from being very broad, as in first I'm a visual artist, to I'm a spiritual artist, to I specifically paint channeled guides and beings. Okay, and I have found a tremendous amount of success in this niche because I didn't try to just market to everyone in a large group. I figured out on a much smaller scale, who it is that I'm marketing to, okay, based on having a very specific niche or direction. And that way I know exactly who I'm marketing to. I know exactly who's going to be interested in paintings of channeled beings rather than, okay, who's interested in spiritual art. Does that make sense? I'm going to give you guys another example of a dear friend and client of mine who may at some point watch this, who I think did a tremendous job of defining and establishing her niche. Okay, so at the beginning when we were working together, she was a spiritual artist. Okay, and I seem to attract those, probably because I am one. So she's a spiritual artist, right? But she was like, well, I don't really know how to make that more specific, or how to make it specific to find an offering that people are really going to enjoy. So we started to niche it down, and we decided, okay, so she's a spiritual portrait artist. She enjoys doing portraits, but that's still a little bit too broad, okay? Portrait artist, way too broad still. It's better than just I'm a visual artist, but it's still too broad. So portrait artist, visual artist, we're getting a little bit closer. And I keep doing this because it really is like a funneling that you're doing. So she decided, okay, I'm a spiritual artist, I'm a spiritual portrait artist. And then we niched it down even further that we figured out that she has this gift of seeing people's auras and auric fields. Okay, so then we niched it down even farther that she is a spiritual portrait artist who paints people's auras. And now you see how we went from being a little tiny drop in this big pool to being a big drop in what would be probably a very small pool of spiritual, realistic portrait artists who paint people's auras. And from that, she's able to make that a very specific offering that people are really going to enjoy. Okay, so that's just a really good example of taking a broad direction and making it more niched. So now let's talk about how you can apply this in your own creative career to start to niche yourself down and find that level of specificity and success. And something that just popped in for me as well to share is just because you start niched with something doesn't mean you can't expand later on. Okay, so I had this fear when I was doing spirit guide paintings and being very niched and specific about it that, oh, now I only do that and that's the only way I'm going to grow. But what happens is you start niched, you start really specific, you become a master of that niche or that trade, and then it starts to grow and expand, and then people just start to know you and love you for your work, for what you're doing within this niche. But then you're able to move to different niches, you're able to expand it. But it's way harder to grow your business when you are like starting, you think it's going to be better because you'd have a wider audience. It's actually not. When you're starting so broad, it's hard to reach people and make an impact. But when you start really small and niched and specific and grow it, then you're going to be able to have more of an impact. So like I said before, now let's talk about how you can apply this in your own creative career. Okay, so maybe here's an exercise for you guys. If you haven't already gone through your experimentation phase, do that. Even if it just takes a few days or a week, like go through a bunch of different styles, decide like, well, what is it that I really like painting? Test out a bunch of different things. And once you find something that feels like it's lighting a spark in you and feels really good, say it's abstract painting, okay? Say you're like, oh man, this feels really good. This is like, I like painting in abstract. Okay, so step one, figure out the style that you enjoy creating in and what you want to start focusing in on. Now we're going to bring it down even further. So now ask yourself, how can I make this even more specific? What is there to painting in abstract, for example, that is unique to me? Say, for example, you decide, okay, I'm going to be focusing on channeling a range of 5 emotions through abstract painting. Okay, that's not the best example, but you kind of catch my drift. Okay, so you want to experiment, you want to find the style that you enjoy working in, and then you want to ask yourself, how do I make this more specific? How do I make this more niche? How do I make this more unique? And you want to try to get the pool down as small as you can, and you don't want to get it down too small where you're like I paint, an example's not even coming to me in this moment. Like you don't want to have a long title of I paint and then it's like a sentence of the most specific weird thing, which there is something for everyone. You'll probably find people who will enjoy it, but maybe like more than like 5 weird people. You know what I mean? So you want to just make it big enough that you feel like, okay, like I have some room to move in this niche. There's maybe not a lot of people doing this. And even if there is, don't even think about competition. Competition isn't real. Competition doesn't even fucking exist because there is for all of the people on this planet, someone might not resonate with the same exact type of art from a different person, but they're going to resonate with the same exact art from you because they specifically connect to something about you. Okay, so don't worry about the competition. Just try to make it as niched as you can. So this is already getting kind of long. I've been working on making my videos shorter, and I'm going to be working on that in the future. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!